We're back.
We are back in our happy place.
We are. Isn't it so true? We are in a happy place.
You're looking rather glowing. I think you've got a bit of a suntan. Is it the Hawaii tan?
Do you know what? I was so busy. I didn't really even get time to do the old sunbake and swim in the coconut oil-laden Waikiki water ocean. But it was quick. It was 4 days. And I went over for a girlfriend's birthday. And
as you do.
As you do. And I caught up with, my brother went to university there. And
Colin, who's been on the podcast, guys,
has.
Season 1, tune in. Colin Scott's with
First
Richard.
Australian to play American football.
Yeah.
So I knew a few people and had drinks with them and all of that. And it was a lot of fun. And look, honestly, I live in paradise. I think Australia is paradise, and I live in Sydney. And I feel very blessed. And it's funny, you do sometimes need to get away from your normal environment, even though it is paradise, to appreciate it even more.
Couldn't agree with you anymore.
Yeah.
It's like, when I flew for the airlines forever, didn't matter where I went to around the world, every single time I'd fly into Sydney, I would take photographs. I'd be, oh, wow, the sun's rising. And you'd see other crew members doing it. I was always in awe. But it's also sometimes you need to sometimes step out of your own backyard.
It's true.
To do it.
I used to say to you, do you remember my stock standard line? Because I've known you for so long. Because I've known her the whole time she was flying. Are you coming? Or are you going?
Yeah.
Didn't it? It was stock
the whole
standard.
time.
It was never any more, where are you going? Forget all that detail.
Didn't matter.
I didn't want to know. I just, are you coming? Or are you going?
Yeah.
That was just stock
and
standard.
that's how it always was. It's like 3 days here, 2 days there, back for 30-something years.
And then I could get my life around
breaks
you.
Breaks when I'd have children, but then they'd come along on trips and you just sort of kind of make it work. And then you talk about, you did another quick little jet away up to another Hamilton
We've got
Island.
so much going on with the podcast at the moment. Nick and I are very conscious, so we're only doing short trips this year. I ducked up to Hamilton Island for 24 hours. I've got a business up there and I did 4,000 things as a woman can do.
Exactly. And I wanted to stay a bit longer. I said, no, sorry, you can't. We've got people we're interviewing. You come on back and do that. And while you were there, I actually went off-grid.
You did.
And I said to Sam,
that was really worrying. Nicola without Wi-Fi.
Yeah, and normally, and I do like a lot of the, sometimes with the socials and other things there. And I said, I'm actually going to be out of the picture, which is kind of unusual for that, just a heads up. And it was so joyful. Mm-hmm. I did off the grid and stayed in one of those little tiny homes. And it was
Fred
really
the dog.
fun. Fred the dog, yep. And then there was 3 horses on the property. And it was in the Upper Colos. It was in New South Wales.
Gorgeous.
And it was just bliss. Like we went for walks and we had such a great time with the horses and the dogs and would have just sort of like, wine in the evening and just sort of like under the stars one night. It was just like the stargazing. I actually woke up at about 3 a.m. and I looked out. I was going, oh my goodness, I forgot how bright the stars are when you go outside the city. And I was actually fully immersed in this whole other sort of like my mind was just going this stargazing. But Destination New South Wales.
What were you? Did you have a few drinks? Like, seriously.
No,
I've gone on a trip with her. They're going, whoa.
But you don't always have to travel overseas, but you can travel within New South Wales. And we've also got to lead into things too. We've got the chair of Destination New South Wales who knows about a few things or not. So let me
one of my faves, Sally Loane.
We are absolutely thrilled to welcome Sally Loane to the back fence. We met Sally earlier this year when we were MCs at the Win Women in Numbers finance ball in Double Bay. And that was a great night.
I had a ball that night.
And she absolutely lit up the room with her
keynote speaker.
Yep. So Sally's career is one of grit, reinvention and purpose. From a childhood on a sheep property in Tenterfield to trailblazing roles in political reporting, broadcasting and corporate leadership, she's now chair of Destination New South Wales and Ignition Advice, sits on the high-profile boards and mentors the next generation of women. She's a mother of 2, she's an author, and someone who's navigated challenge, change and loss with a rare blend of strength and heart.
Go, Sally.
Welcome to the back fence.
Sally, that's a big call.
We're in awe of you, Sally. We really are.
I used to be a fan when you were
this one was
with 702, the radio, the morning radio host. A lot of people are surprised when I say listen to the ABC. It doesn't sort of sit comfortably with the person they know. But I don't know. It's like I like to hear different points of view about whatever's happening in the world. And I adored your voice. I loved the way you approach things. In fact, ever since it's been a big turnover of 702 radio hosts. But you were my favourite, I have to say. I also
I can back that up because that night of the wind ball too, because we'd met previously. Was it a Qantas ball or something like that?
Yeah. Glamorous event.
A glamorous event, and the next one was a glamorous event. We liked sort of wearing the big glamour dresses.
Go the glam.
And I said, I kind of met Sally. And then Di was absolutely going, I've followed her and listened to her. She was
Stalker.
my favourite.
I was sitting next to you, remember?
She was a bit of a stalker.
I said, oh, my God, I'm going to be a stalker.
She's on the table. Wow.
There was a fabulous interview about you in the Harper's Bazaar recently, and I just mentioned to Nicola how much I enjoyed reading that article.
Feature.
And something I noticed within the shape of the interview was many, many questions and many answers reflected on your time growing up in Tenterfield. So I'm going to sing you something.
Di, drop of a hat, we'll sing a song.
Because many years ago I lived in New York and I knew Peter Allen well enough. And I've got goosebumps and I'm going to do it. Time is a traveller, Tenterfield saddler, turn your head, right again, jackaroo, think I see kangaroo up ahead. That's for you. That's my blessing to you. Look at you. You're going to make me cry.
Every time we drove, my husband and I drove from Sydney to Tenterfield to see my late dad, we'd play that as we drove in.
I didn't know that.
We cried right in the first 5 minutes.
Oh, my God, Sally.
Di loves that.
No, but I love the fact
that is from the heart.
Look at you. It just makes me think honestly about the strength that she's carried through life and the resilience that you've carried through life.
Thank you.
So tell us about those beginnings.
Well, like a lot of your guests, you go back into their backgrounds, and I always think a background forms people actually and informs their character. Yeah, I grew up on the land. I grew up as a country kid, went away to school eventually, but my whole life was formed by parents who grew up. I was sort of third generation on the land. And we just did so much ourselves. We didn't have television until, I can't remember, I was about 11 or 12. Yeah. So we listened to the radio, the wireless all the time. Rode horses, learnt to ride when I was very young, fell off a lot. My father said to me, Sally, you're not a good rider unless you've fallen off 10 times. And I got to 10, I thought, come on. But, it makes you kind of resilient. And I think being a country kid sort of set me up pretty well for my later life, which was doing a lot of other things. But, that I often find when I talk to women and I instantly bond with them, I think, there's something in your background that's made you a little bit stronger. And going through droughts and floods and commodity cycles and being dependent on, weather and commodity prices, the world markets.
Totally.
And your own strength as humans. So you're out there on your horse or you're doing sort of physical things with your parents. And I did a lot with my dad, going out riding, etc. It gives you just a different take on life. My own kids are city kids, but my late sister she lived on a property. So I would send my kids up to their property every school holiday.
Where was her property?
It was just near Stanthorpe in southwest Queensland.
Beautiful.
I grew up in Tenterfield, which is just over the border. My sister fell in love with a grazier from Queensland. But I would send my kids up there just so they could get out of the city and just see life from a different aspect.
Did they take their mobile phones?
No, they didn't have that.
Therein lies the secret,
isn't it?
It's the land.
It's good to have just quiet time out from that too. And your parents seem to be like good role models for you.
Yeah, they were good role models. Yeah, my dad only died a couple of years ago. He was 96.
Good innings.
Yeah, really good innings. Yeah. And Mum was always entrepreneurial. She was one of those backbones of the community. She'd be out there doing all sorts of things during the drought. She learned to make pottery and art and all these sorts of things just to keep her busy. They were pretty amazing parents. And I like to think of it going back a few generations too to that sort of those people who pioneered the land, and that's the stock I come from, I guess. So I guess it's had some for me.
Excuse the pun.
Was your mum in the CWA? Was it the Country Women's
Yeah, she
Association?
probably was. I remember having a lot of
grandmothers
scones
in
at
that,
the
and I
CWA.
loved all the women that were in
Oh,
that. It's like salt of the
they're
earth.
the backbone.
They were
They are
to
salt
the
of the earth.
country.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Wow, that says a lot. So what brought you to the big smoke?
School, really.
Okay,
Yeah. So I had not School of the Air, but we had correspondence school where my mum, there were three of us, and she was our teacher.
Oh, really? So she taught you. and your
Yeah.
brother
So you
and
get all
sister.
these.
Yeah.
You get all this sort of in the mail, which came once a
Wow.
week. You got these big chunks of correspondence school, and we had to go through all the lessons. And then I went to various little tiny state schools, around the district. Families had come in and they'd work on the properties. And they would be the backbone of the school. And when they left, the school would close and you'd move on to an... It was an amazing
remarkable.
upbringing.
It's remarkable.
Yes.
We know a few country people who had similar sort of upbringings, and they say it was, formative.
Exactly. But
Like,
this is
they're not negative about
That's
it.
amazing going.
Yeah.
But your mum actually homeschooled you as well for a
She
lot
did,
of it
for a
too.
couple
Did you
of
ever
years.
tell her just to get lost?
Oh, well,
Seriously?
we always
Wow.
had to have the
Good
school
girl.
and then we could go out in the paddock with Dad. So it was school in the morning, paddock with Dad.
Dad was fun. Mum was.
Yeah, Mum was...
Well, I suppose
got
they
it.
had to have their roles too. And so then what, did you go to uni or
Yeah,
where did it...
went away to boarding school.
Yes,
and then went to uni in Queensland, actually.
Oh,
Right.
Tenterfield's on the border.
Yes.
So we were border kids.
Yeah.
So that was closer where Dad was selling his wool. So that's where we all went to school.
Amazing.
And what did you
Amazing.
do? What, journalism
Yeah.
or...
I did.
Yeah,
I did
there you go.
journalism.
Yes.
So that you were destined for that, no doubt.
But were there
I
many
think so.
women doing journalism then? Or was
Quite
it
a
more...
few.
Okay, so it was sort of like it's like
Yeah.
it turned a little bit then because it used to be a lot
had.
more men, I think. Was that
Definitely.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe.
No, you're right.
In every
yes.
industry, possibly.
Yeah, I guess it's working.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah,
That's true.
And then
But
women discovered journalism, and so I was with a lot of women in my cohort. I did an English, BA, English honours and journalism, and I thought, what can I do with this? And I'll be a journalist. And my first job was with the Australian.
Oh, I love that news. That's my favourite
Yes.
newspaper.
So you're writing for the
I
Australian.
was, yeah.
How
yeah.
awesome! And then you got a political career. Is that when then you went to? Also, you went to
Canberra
with the boys.
That's
Yeah,
a big
with the
deal.
boys.
How was
Yeah.
that?
It's great.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
loved
because
it.
did you?
Yeah.
Was it tough being? How was it sort of being more of the female in a male-dominated sort of
I had a
arena?
female boss because I worked
brilliant.
for the Melbourne Age in the Parliamentary Press Gallery in Parliament House.
Michelle Grattan, is
Michelle
that?
Grattan.
Oh,
Yes,
she's brilliant.
yes.
She's like the doyen.
My mum
Yeah.
used to love, my mum's
Amazing
favourite
woman.
used to always be on a Saturday, she was in Bliss, she'd do the stuff there, then she'd say, right, a cup of tea, and she'd have the Saturday Age,
Yeah.
and she'd love Michelle Grattan, and she'd go through the whole
Amazing.
thing from front to back of the Australian,
I love
and that
it.
was it.
Yeah. Michelle was one of those people, she was a stickler for the facts. So, and I watched and learned at her feet
Brilliant.
because she would ring, and we had
Mentor.
deadlines then.
Yeah,
that
right
went
on.
till about 2 a.m. in the morning.
Jeez.
And she would sit there in Parliament House and she had a story and she'd ring the people up, she'd ring the politicians up and they'd say, Michelle, I can't be quoted on that. She'd have to kill the story. Whereas, she was really, really dedicated to the facts and she didn't spin anything. If it didn't stack up, she didn't run it. But she was amazing. And she
Yes.
always taught me to go back and check the facts every time. Because sometimes deadlines will get to you and you think, oh, I need to check. But
And integrity is everything too, isn't it? So
Yeah.
then if it's not going to sort of fly, then it doesn't go.
Exactly.
So would you say she has been one of your mentors in life?
She wouldn't have called herself a mentor.
No, not her, but for you.
Yeah,
was she?
definitely.
Really?
She was a real role model.
Because
for
it was
me.
early days for you and you were
Yeah.
ripe for the plucking, so to speak. and
Definitely.
It's like the juice out of her experience.
Oh, just watching and learning. It was amazing.
Wow.
Just listening to her in press conferences. She was always a bit skeptical about everything, which was a good way to be if you're a journalist. She'd question a lot. And then watching her put a story together was just amazing.
Wow.
Yeah. it
So
was
people
great.
people glide over that. There's so much to journalism.
Oh,
Really?
there's so much,
Yeah.
and then just I was sort of saying you met my daughter Gabriella, and
Yes.
she's a journalist too, and so
Yeah.
when she was in Melbourne and she was doing it at stage then, and every day of her life during COVID, her job was then to go to the press conference there, 11 o'clock, and say with Daniel Andrews, and the results would be how many people and the numbers. But every day it would be asking tough questions.
Yes.
And she just had to have the courage to stand up and say it, as much as she'd, like to have like wobbly boots to do it. She would do it and be tough and strong. So what gave you that confidence and courage to
Tenterfield.
have that strength? Like to ask those tough things that sometimes
really
you go,
tough.
wow, that takes strength.
It does.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of courage often to write those stories, because you will get backlash.
Totally.
And I used to watch Michelle, and I'd come in the morning in the press gallery in our little office, and she'd be sitting on the phone.
Yeah, right. I love it.
And
What
one
fun.
day I got and I said, "Who was that?" He said, "Oh, that was Paul Keating."
Oh, really?
Wow.
And he was saying he was obviously on a bit of a rage with her, but she didn't come back. She was very calm and kind, and that was it. But you do have to have courage. And I'm very good friends with some journalists still to this day. I'm not a journalist anymore, but some of my best friends are journalists, and their courage that they have in, doing investigative journalism and work. Really courageous people.
I think
take my hat
I have to be honest.
because people go for them in a really big way,
do.
and it can be scary.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I want to say, when you use the word courageous, because I do love that word, courage is just huge. For me, when I see courageous people, I'm just not worthy. You are incredibly courageous when you first went on to start live radio with
that
the
was
ABC.
scary.
Because I remember, this is a true story. Nicola doesn't know this.
No, I didn't listen
I did
to it
live
as much.
television.
I was traveling around the world with Qantas,
I had a morning television program, and the night before we practiced, before I was going live, 5 mornings a week, I turned to my husband at the time. What do they say, first husband?
Yeah.
I turned to him and said, "I want to go home," because I was so terrified.
Yeah.
Little did I realize I was so naive. I was plucked out of nowhere to do this. Someone just saw my personality, and
It's life, isn't it?
and when David went, "You're on the mic," they would have all heard that. And I'm going, whatever. I came out in a rash on my body.
Yeah.
So I was fine. I went in and did my job. But I heard in the interview about you saying about James Valentine.
Yes.
Tell us about that, because you were terrified.
I was
live
terrified.
Radio.
Yeah, because I went from print journalism
Yes.
straight into radio, and you know that feeling.
It's live, isn't it?
You nearly want to vomit.
You do.
It's actually hits you in the gut. And James, I was walking towards the studio on my very first morning, and James said to me, he said, "Sally," he said, "they want to like you." And he said, "It's like bungee jumping. There's a big elastic rope that will stop you hitting the ground." And I've never forgotten that piece of advice, because he's such a kind, lovely man, James. And you can hear it in his voice. He's still on air. He's brilliant. And I've never forgotten that. Somebody just being kind enough to say to me, "You're going to be okay."
And how important is that in life?
Yeah.
Nick and I often talk about people that influence us through our lives, our careers. And likewise, like when we were hosting that WIN event with 300 women the other night.
I did the big whistle. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
You guys did such a good job.
Thank you.
Because
Thanks,
a room, you can imagine the decibel level.
300 women.
300 women
with alcohol.
The vinos, exactly.
But, like in your life, who has been, who's influenced you, like besides Michelle in your life, like unbelievable life that you've led?
Yeah, look, in every sphere, I suppose, there's somebody. In journalism, it was Michelle and others like James, and great colleagues that you actually learn to really like and respect, and you want to be them, you want to be like them. And in my second iteration, which was in the corporate sector, I had a few role models that were right up there on a pedestal. People who were board directors and chairs, and I thought, those people really are fantastic citizens. People like, David Gonski, who's a philanthropist and a businessman. He was responsible for putting me in my job at Coca-Cola.
So tell us of the transition, just for everyone listening to, because it's quite amazing, and we're all about changing your careers, doing something, then starting again. So for you, you were like the full-on journalist, and you did TV work, you were news reading, you're reporting, you've just covered so much. I mean, how did you get into the corporate world like that? So tell us.
Natural progression, was it?
It was calculated. Because I felt
good communicator.
I felt like I'd had 25 years as a journalist.
Right.
And everybody who came into my studio sort of had it rehearsed answers, especially the pollies. Everyone was a bit rehearsed and they'd been media trained and the whole thing. And I thought,
Totally.
and I had this segment every week which I called the spin doctors, and I got people
Love that.
from, they were corporate affairs directors and PRs from senior people, and I used to put up an either a made up or a real life problem for them, and I said, well, how would you manage that? If it's Coca-Cola and there's a big plant explosion or there's a poison bottle or whatever, how would you handle that in terms of being a corporate affairs director or a crisis manager? And they went through and said, this is how we do it, and this is how normal, this is how a zoo would do it if a lion escapes or anything, somebody gets knocked over, whatever it is. And I thought, this is fascinating. I really like this. I want to be like them. So I said to myself, I think I can do that and step away from journalism and become a corporate affairs person to actually look after the corporate affairs and the PR and the public affairs and the government relations in a company. And so I thought, well, I'll do that. And then the ABC and I had a parting of the ways. I'd been there 5.5 years. My ratings were high.
They were.
But
I was listening.
They decided, thank you, Di.
Yes,
They decided it was all over.
And that is radio. I don't know anyone who's been hit that way. Everyone.
No.
It's just kind of cruel, really. It's so the game and then they pull the rug out. It happens.
You actually resigned, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Good on you.
It was.
Oh, you know so much.
I know everything about
stalker.
Sally. It's true. I haven't been a stalker in 100 interviews, and now I am.
All these secret
It's
things.
like-
You think you know someone,
know,
but 40
I
years,
know.
I didn't know that she was a secret Sally's stalker.
It's true.
Until I know. I didn't know.
And how's this though?
Yeah, there's a lot to die.
But you know what's
She keeps little
incredible? I
secrets.
didn't know Sally's son went to school with my son.
I know.
So how's the irony in
How come
that?
we didn't meet at the bus stop?
2 degrees of
You know why?
separation.
Because two of us been
1
so
degree of
busy
separation.
women, busy
Parents'
mothers.
night having some
exactly.
champagne or something.
No,
Come
we
on.
never. We only worked it out the other night, and
The social.
I actually have to admit they both actually boarded for a period of time,
did get that.
and they both
Yeah.
both we said, you said, did you know? Oh my God, yeah. And on that note, I want to say up front, because this is something about you I unbelievably admire, is you were the first woman on the board with the New South Wales Waratahs. You're the first woman in 135 years.
Yes, I
Bravo.
With the New South Wales Waratahs. Tell us about that.
Yes.
I mean, you love rugby. Where does
I
that
do.
come from?
That came from school and university. So I followed rugby because I kind of liked the boys who played it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
now we're hearing the
They're
truth.
all-
That's the
I
truth.
love it.
And I
few
did marry.
muscles there.
I did marry one, and he became a wallaby captain.
Oh, I
And
didn't
so
know
I-
Is he the
that.
father of your children?
No,
Oh, no.
Oh,
Okay.
no, this is
Before.
very early
Early
Okay.
days.
Very early
First
days.
husband, yeah.
There's a few, isn't
Very
there?
early
I love
days.
that
Yeah,
line.
yeah.
We like that, Sally.
So-
we're going to go
that's-
into love life in a bit.
So rugby,
loved
particularly for a woman,
Yeah.
back then was rare. Your love of rugby was remarkable.
that's true.
Yeah, I did love it because I was always going to games, and I was, watching Mark play and watching my brother play and other people that I knew. Women weren't playing in those days.
No.
But, they're playing now, of course. But I loved it. And then I thought, I really like the business of sport. And I met the chairman of Waratahs Rugby, Ed Zemenchev, at a networking event. And I said, I really would love to get on the board. And he
Don't you
said,
love it?
See?
The nows. Yeah. See, you can sit back on your hands, guys, and nothing happens.
You know, because that is
Step up
that
to
is
the mark.
also a tip in life. And look, you just put it out there sometimes.
You
You know,
do.
it doesn't always happen, but
Yeah.
you've got to put it out there.
Yeah, and Ed actually said the same. We sort of came to the same conclusion, and I went on the board, and it was absolutely fantastic. I had 7 years, and I was the first woman. My first board meeting, they all sat around thinking, "What do we do with her?" And then
Yeah,
gave me a
bet.
tie. But I
old, isn't
hope I
it?
added something to it, and
for
I made
sure.
them. I think I added a bit of value because I got them to think about marketing rugby to women and families, not just blokes.
Oh, good
Yes.
girl.
You know,
I love
so
it.
It's true.
You're just bringing
It's an
new
outing out
audiences.
for everybody.
It is, and it's a really nice, good values and lovely people.
I've been weaned on
all
it
of that.
too, Sally.
Oh, this one too.
Weaned on it my whole life. I've got three brothers.
Three brothers.
And an uncle that was a wallaby.
Yes.
Stuart
Amazing.
Scott's, he was a
Yeah.
Scots boy too.
Amazing.
So it's in my blood. We
Yeah.
won't talk to Nicola, and it's AFL over here.
Yeah, my dad was a footy
we'll
player,
come back
but
to
he was with the Bombers, Essendon. He played a couple of AFL games, and
No.
you know.
No, we
Love
love
all
it all.
codes of footy.
We love it all.
I love now. If I was had the opportunity, I would have played AFL because I used to play
She's
in the
a
backyard with.
sportswoman.
I'm fairly sporty, and Dad
You look
very,
sporty,
yeah,
right?
She's very,
sporty.
she's very sporty.
And so I used to be with my brother. Sorry, Colin, if you're listening, but I could outmark him. I'd do the drop kick and the whole thing because my dad would sort of kick the footy with my brother, and I'd come along too. And I was the one doing the leap and catching it and doing all that. And
And
Dad
aren't the
would be like,
girls
"Whoa,
great now?
it's fantastic.
What's that?
to
Aren't the
see."
girls great now?
Oh, it's
The
so
best
exciting.
sport.
Doesn't matter
Everyone,
what code.
And
everyone
chicks
plays
cricket,
sport.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
just
it's
awesome.
exciting.
It really is.
We
Truly
had
and
Kath
honestly.
Cox and the chicks from No
Yeah.
Dribble. They she was in
The
the Australian
best.
netball team
Yes.
for 16 years.
She was
Any
amazing.
code of sport.
Yeah, it's
we
so
go,
true.
Go.
No,
It's
we're all
fantastic.
for it. And why not? Everyone should play every
And what about
sport.
some of the
If
other
you can.
boards that you're on, Sally, or you've been on?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Your corporate world.
I started way back on boards when I went on my daughter's school board, and that was great. That was a really
So
good
the
way.
Skeggs?
Yes,
Yes,
it was.
yes.
So I had 12 years on the Skeggs.
Wow.
Which was
I
fantastic.
actually heard a
That's
podcast with
huge.
you on it from the guy from Skeggs.
Ah,
And it was
yes.
really good.
Yes.
It was really nice.
Yeah. I learnt a lot there about collaboration around boardroom table, etc. And then I went on the Waratahs board, and that was great fun. Learnt a lot. And then I was asked to go on the board of a government organisation, Venues New South Wales, and they run all the stadia that are built across the state. So
Wow.
Combank Stadia, Allianz
Yes.
Stadia, Accor, the Newcastle Wollongong, and that was another entry into a business world. And then I went on to the board of Destination New South Wales, which is the premier government agency for tourism in New South
And
Wales.
you're on that. Are you still on the board with Destination New
Yes,
South Wales?
yes.
Now,
I am.
tell us about
Yeah,
that.
we-
Yeah.
yes.
What happened? Give me a day in the life of Sally Loane with
Well,
Destination New South Wales.
Hearing you talking
Yeah.
about camping
Yes,
out in
yes,
Silo,
yes. I loved it.
Oh my god!
Or-
Yeah, I
yeah.
can
Then
see
the
your-
Tenterfield song.
Oh, right, yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
know.
know.
Honestly,
You got me in
the
the first
stars
couple
or
of
whatever. You just go. You can't beat your backyard.
You
can
can't.
you? Of
And
New South
we-
Tell
Wales.
us about that.
We are we're successful here in attracting visitors to New South Wales and Sydney. I mean, Sydney's where everybody really wants to come, of course, from overseas and even interstate. And then the rest of New South Wales really, really punches above its weight in getting visitors from across Australia and internationally. And we've got some really exciting things coming to Australia. We've got the British and Irish Lions rugby test, and we're going to have probably 30,000 people descend from
exciting.
the UK into our city and state.
When's that, Sally?
That's
When's
coming at the end of June, and that's going to be
Wow.
a couple of weeks, and that's going to be great with a lot of visitors. So we are
Back fences,
constantly-
get a ticket.
Yeah, get a ticket. But the thing that I love about Destination is that we invest in really great events and things that are going to build visitation into New South Wales and get a return on investment for the taxpayer. So it's like being a fund manager for New South
Wow.
Wales.
Yes.
That's what it's like. And we work with all the arts institutions. We're very close collaboration with all the cultural institutions, the festivals like Sydney Festival and the Writers Festival and the Film Festival and the Fringe, et cetera, et cetera. And even those regional festivals like the Mundi Bash.
Is there an Elvis one or something?
Yeah,
Is there
the
one
Parks
where
Elvis
isn't it-
Festival.
I want to go to that.
Narooma Oyster Festival.
So many I want to do.
I know.
What's the
So
one in
many.
Mudgee? There's one in Mudgee too.
Oh,
something.
yes.
Like,
Sally,
there's
which
so
one
many.
don't
Yes.
I want to do? I want to
I
do a
know.
potty from one of the ones. What should we do?
We'll do a
Where's-
potty
I
from
think
one
it'd
of
be
them.
funny.
Oh,
It'd be
God,
really
that
good.
would be
Don't you think
great.
so?
Let's
the
do
Denny
it.
Ute Muster.
That could be
That's pretty
fun, wouldn't
interesting.
it? Don't likes the
What?
cow.
I'm going the what?
Oh,
like
don't
the
say the
donut.
what?
Well, she likes the cowgirl boots. This
I do.
doesn't she? She's got
And
a, you know.
I'm a
haven't
scare.
you?
I go to
Cowgirl
Colorado.
boots, and she has the hat.
I have it all.
Got a
So
bag
it's
to
I'm
put Denny
set,
Ute
ready to
mustard.
go.
Oh, okay. Wow.
I need a guitar and I can sing one song.
Oh, yeah.
no.
She's a singer.
You could go to the Mundi
Di's very
Bash out near Broken Hill.
multi-skilled.
That
That'd be
sounds
good.
like fun. That
Very
sounds
multi-skilled, our Di.
Oh, well, so's our knickers.
You know, yeah.
So that sounds like fun.
Well, I think that's
It's a fun job.
awesome.
I'd love that.
Yes.
That sounds like
Have any,
yeah.
you're actually just back from Japan.
Yeah.
And when you've travelled and whatever, do you have any faves? Is Australia the fave or around
Australia.
the world? Or,
Sydney and New South Wales, definitely my
Yes,
favourite.
yeah.
Because that's in my blood.
Oh, God,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I've discovered Japan in recent years.
How was it?
As in skiing or Japan?
Skiing and Japan. I've been up there about 5 or 6 times now. No jet lag. You just go hop on a
brilliant.
plane, don't you?
Yeah.
Nick? Straight up.
Do the work trips
No
that
jet
go there
lag.
for 24 hours and come back and have the best time.
Yeah, you actually had
So
it
good.
worked, literally.
Yeah, and I wouldn't get jet lag.
No, you don't get jet
just
lag.
at all. It's
Yeah,
like
you
a
love
2
going
hour
to Japan and you get extra cash when you go there too, didn't you?
Oh, so the yen was worth it. The yen was strong. Yeah. The yen was
Well,
Now let's talk about
It's not good now.
But good
so
snow,
our
we might
dollars-
say
Wow.
predictable snow too.
Very
So if
good.
you're going to go
I'm
anywhere.
glad you had a good trip. But also, we want to know a bit about money and finance too, because that's a big part of your world. Is that right?
is,
Tell us a bit about that.
When I left Coca-Cola, where I was a spin doctor, essentially, for Coke, which is a
I
fabulous
love that
job.
term.
Yeah, I did love that job.
I can tell.
It's one of my
Wow, yeah.
favorite
Wow.
parts. But I was headhunted out of there to be head of this organisation called the Financial Services Council, which is essentially the industry organisation for all the big fund managers, the superannuation funds, the life insurance companies, and the advice licensee companies. Collectively, we call that the wealth sector. So anything, banking is a little bit different because banking has its own industry organisation, but we looked after policy for all of those big groups. Now, Australia has a very large wealth industry. It's second to mining. It's quite extraordinary.
Really?
Financial
I
services.
I think a lot of listeners may
is
not know
huge.
that because
I didn't know
I'm
that.
learning a lot.
Yeah.
We want to know more and more, and we're actually going to be doing a segment on finance
With
coming
Roger
up.
Montgomery.
Which is good. And we also are going to actually put out a survey for our listeners too, which we'll also put on our Instagram too, because over the hasn't it, Joe, over sort of like the episodes, we've had people coming in and or writing DMs of how they've sort of felt with fear,
Struggling,
and stuff,
yeah.
and no more. But
And also living longer, like, have I got enough
exactly.
to survive, to live longer? And so that was great what you just said about DMing us, because we've got a bit of financial, a few interviews coming up around that
on the finance
specifically.
thing.
Yeah.
So if we do want people to DM us,
just
anonymously or not,
a
doesn't
lot
matter.
anonymously, because some have already, but just DM us,
Yeah.
on our Instagram, or email us, and over the back fence.
Yeah, we're so happy to help, honestly, and particularly with what we've got
questions
coming up.
too.
Yeah.
So back to because we want to know more, because I didn't know that.
Just on
Yes.
that.
Yes, please.
Roger Montgomery
Yes.
is amazing. This is another degree of separation. I used to have him on my ABC program.
Oh, there you go. I knew, Rog. Roger, baby.
Explaining finance and shares, and he was such a good communicator.
He's incredible.
And people would ring in, and
Yeah,
I
they
could have
think
kept that going for an hour.
See, there you
wow.
go.
Yes.
So
That's
perfect.
why we have him.
Oh, wow. That's
Sally,
awesome.
because
Well, to come.
Yeah.
we had a few people approach us, but we went, you make sense.
Yeah.
And we
Money
can have a
and
giggle
sense.
with him.
Yes.
So it relaxes
It's very
it, because I
clear.
get fearful around talking about finance. I just do.
Yeah.
Maths
And you're not
and I
alone.
didn't get
That's
on
why
at school.
so many women and men do. And it's like we were sort of saying with menopause is sort of like a buzzword, which is really good. Now money is too. Because
Well,
it used to be a bit
financial,
more
finance,
menopause. It used to be a bit more of a taboo thing, and from sometimes women of our generation,
Yep.
you wouldn't
Didn't talk
you don't
about it.
talk
Oh, God,
about
no.
things like that. And what
Like
does
it's
Sally say?
shameful.
A man is not your.
Financial plan.
Love that you said that.
And you know what I love? We said, talking to someone yesterday about Gilligan's Island. Remember the theme?
Yes.
The millionaire and his wife.
Yes,
See, you
that's
knew,
right.
you know it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like it's like
Yeah.
all of these hit home, and like to us it was the norm because that's all we knew.
We were
And
brought
now
up.
in reflection, you go, "Oh my God, was that real?
Yeah.
Did that really happen?" And we're still breaking through the barriers.
Yeah, we are.
still, and you see it
Incredible.
every day.
So tell us about you. So what did you run this then?
Yes, I was the CEO of this
Congratulations, that's
organisation.
huge.
Yeah, look,
No,
it
it's
was
really
amazing.
good.
It was another very steep learning curve.
Yes.
There goes my
so I
shoes.
had another learning curve like
Yeah,
this.
how's that for a
And-
learning curve though?
Yeah.
That's listeners, that's really
Sorry, I
huge.
missed that. I was taking my
just
shoes
taking your
off.
shoes off. Do you
What was
miss
that?
that, Heidi?
Sorry?
Just
Tune in.
going from Coca-Cola
Yeah.
into the financial services world.
Right,
And I had
yes.
to have another big steep learning curve.
Because she's running it. Like, all the thing
Yeah.
there, that's
Why
an
does that not
amazing
surprise
thing.
you, Nicola, with
Yeah.
Sally?
Well, I...
Sally for Prime Minister, I say.
Yeah.
What do you reckon?
Yeah, PM. She's got my vote. She's always got
You got
Stalker's.
two?
She's got Stalker's
Sally,
vote here.
That would not be
You've
an
got
easy
two.
Stalker's
profession.
vote here.
Politics would not be
placards.
easy. It would
No,
be
well, you
so
know
hard.
firsthand.
So hard.
Sorry, I'm
Yes.
digressing.
No, let's go back to
Let's
Sally.
go back
Sorry.
to the issue
We
at
wanna-
hand.
Let's sit.
Zip. No, that's okay. No,
We
it's
can't
great
do that.
chatting because it's making me think, why on earth did I do that? But I did it because somebody said, you can do it, even though I didn't think I could. It's one of those bungee jump leaps.
I love about you, though,
kind of
Sally.
Yeah.
You just
keep
do it.
going.
Go for it. Yeah.
So I did that, and that was fun and really good learning for 7 years. But what I learned a lot about money, and I learned a lot about the people who actually run our money and who make wealth for us. So it's not just putting money in a bank. It's actually the people who run your money in a fund, whether that's a superannuation fund or one of these other fund managers. So you can have investments, you can have your super, you can have your life insurance, and you can get financial advice. All of those pillars come together to help you make better financial decisions. And what my mantra became over the years, because I had a daughter growing up, my son was sort of very good with money, and my daughter is too, but I really felt like I have a lot of nieces, and I really felt like they should start off with good financial literacy and education. So they should understand that the first time they get a paid job, put some aside in super and in an investment account. So your money grows with you. So you don't get to 50 and you think, holy hell, have I got enough, or have I got enough? You start at the beginning, you can grow your wealth, because in Australia because we've got such a big superannuation industry, we have compulsory super.
Which has been good, don't you think?
Thank God.
It's grown out.
I think when I joined Qantas at 22, I had to put money away, and I'm so glad I did, because that was
thank the
saved
Lord
me.
for so
I did it
many
for
people.
34 years. You know, like
it's true.
I've always worked.
Yeah.
Yes. And Qantas had a great fund.
Good super, exactly.
really good
yes,
super.
yeah.
I think we're all grateful for that. And
very
our children
grateful.
are going to be even more grateful.
Yeah.
Who started the superannuation fund? Who was the one that said
there used to be always private super. So if you worked in corporates, our parents had a bit of super.
Yeah.
But the compulsory
Which
system,
government was the
it
one?
It was Labor.
Oh.
Paul Keating, who was head of the Labor Party, I think he was either Prime Minister or Treasurer, I can't remember, in 1992, established it with Bill Kelty, who was head of the trade unions.
Very smart.
Interestingly, it started off as a trade union thing. So I was in journalism.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, it's
To be
very
honest.
interesting. And my trade union at the time was a journalists' union. And we all understood that this was a compulsory scheme, and we had to put 3% of our salaries. This is back in 1992. I was pregnant with Locke, had my first child coming along, and I thought, I don't want to put 3% into some little fund.
I remember thinking that too.
I won't see this for God knows when.
Yeah.
If I'd known then,
Wouldn't have you upped it?
I would have
Absolutely,
upped it.
100%.
Well, yeah,
Isn't it
well,
funny?
and now what? And Sally, what about because you're hearing this, but there's a lot of women now, that sort of at our age, and they haven't done it, they haven't worked, and they're all of a sudden their marriage has fallen over, and they're there going, I don't even have the money to do this. I've lost the home in the divorce, the money fell through. Can you start again, or what can you do?
And or anxiety around
What
it.
advice would you give? Because you're a woman who's restarted her life. You've gone through some tragedies. You've gone resilience.
Divorce
What do you?
like us.
Yeah, and loss. And I'm sorry you've
all of
lost
those
your
things.
siblings too, which I'm really deeply sorry
tough.
about that. I can't imagine what that's like. That one of the worst losses of all. But just for people genuinely who are out there listening, there's a lot, because we know we get messages there. Can we start it even in your 50s, 60s?
You know what?
What can you do?
You actually can.
Guys, listen.
Yeah. There are some tax effective things. If you get some inheritance, or if you sell a business, or you come into a bit of money, you can sort of stuff that into the superannuation system. Now, if you haven't got enough, and you're below the cap, there's a cap at the moment for super. You can put as much as you like in super, but in the phase for accumulation, it is capped now. And if you're catching up, and this is what I had to do in my 50s, I was catching up. I was in a job where I was paid quite a bit more, so I really pumped a lot of that money into my super fund, over and above the normal employer concessional contribution that your employer makes. And these days, I think it's 12% now that your employer puts in.
Yes.
But
Thank
you
God,
can
as
put
you said.
over and above that if you ever are of a certain age and you don't have enough in your super fund. So you can, if you get some spare money, whatever you do, put it in there. It's a really tax-effective way.
Yeah, and what's that
Correct.
people who
It's
don't
really
really
good.
have much, or they've just got like a part-time job just to get by?
Yeah.
You've got a lot of people, they might be cleaning part-time, or they're
Yeah.
working in a shop 2 days a
Yeah.
week and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, you can do it.
Still can do it.
It's very tax effective. You can also put money into just an exchange traded fund, which are very simple. Most banks have got access to those ETFs, they're called. Ask your kids.
Yes.
They all know about them because
Isn't it great?
they
Isn't that
are
just
so much
so
better
good?
We'll be
educated.
unpacking a
Well,
lot
we'll
of
be
this
unpacking a bit
moving
more.
forward with Roger.
And we've got the best with the
which I'm
best
excited
which
about.
is so good.
Yeah.
It was great
Yeah.
to get
In
your
so many ways.
endorsement
Yeah.
with Roger. It's
Oh, and by the way, I'm not a financial planner, so
yes.
don't take any notice of what I'm saying.
Mind you, that was very relative,
Exactly.
and I loved what you just said about super because I'm going to repeat what we were just saying about it being taboo. It's okay to talk finance, guys. It's okay.
And you're not
You don't
alone
have to get
feeling
too
all
personal.
those funny
Share
fears
it.
that you feel.
Don't feel. Did you say alone?
Yes, so
That's
you're
the
not
key-
alone, and that's
key
what
word.
we're now going to. We're actually putting a
Exactly.
spotlight on it
Yep.
because we all know that a lot of people felt sort of like
Don't get
shameful
goosebumps with that.
or fearful, and then you don't know, or you feel a
Yep.
bit dumb because you don't understand
Yes.
things.
You're not
Push
going
it
to ask a
and your
question.
love fails,
Exactly.
your marriage
And actually,
fails.
what's that?
Why should that
Some
affect
of the
you?
things I love,
Like
Sally,
your
you've got
finances.
a few good sayings too, and like with that feature article that Di was mentioning, Harper's Bazaar was a great one.
I loved it.
And you've got
Thank
some
you,
of-
Maureen Jordan, who
Yeah,
interviewed
I actually do
and
want to
some of
honour
your
her.
things
I do
too.
too.
It's brilliant.
Great
But you
donor.
sort of say, walk in a room with your shoulders back. Like don't be afraid.
I do that
to
because of
ask
Pilates.
questions. But what other tips would you say,
I'll
just as a
have you know.
female now, just sort of like, I love that
Own
sort
it.
of like, have that confidence.
I think so. And it's
Is
not
it tweak
easy.
Do you
for
make
all-
it sometimes, or
It always is.
I mean, are you ever
You guys
prepared?
have started. You've
Yes,
changed
yes.
careers. You've
Well, he
started
just
a
reminded
whole
me,
new
make sure
career.
you make a put
I
more
have.
lipstick
People
on.
sort of say, wow,
Bit
you're
more
doing
lipstick.
this, you're doing Sunrise, you're doing speaking,
Yeah.
you're doing that. And I go, I guess I have. And I don't even know how it happened for a passion project.
Yeah.
And you find something that you love. And now I'm at this stage. How old am I, Di? You're like 50.
Oh, you're
She's never
32
she's
and I'm
30.
37.
Exactly.
You know how it is.
Yeah, but now talk about also.
Nicola
you
thinks
like to change.
she thinks every week I get younger.
Yeah, she does.
True. Thank you, sweetheart. That's very thoughtful.
She was
No.
Benjamin Button. She's younger.
She
every
goes,
year.
so how
This
old are
one-
you this week? I said,
I
it's irrelevant.
love it. Exactly.
Age is but a number.
But also, look, we've gone through. We've had
How
divorces,
lucky am I
and
working with her,
broken
Sally? Like-
relationships,
How lucky.
and all this sort of stuff too. Now,
Really?
Sally, I loved it when you said that you're on a second
You
or
got that
third
cheeky
marriage or
milk,
something.
Nicola.
No, I
Yes.
just want to know, and for our listeners there, it's because it's kind of good to know. Going, how do you get? Like your marriage breaks up, and no matter what, it's not
Yeah.
fun.
No.
It doesn't matter.
And with children
and with
too.
children,
No, it's
terrible.
first time, second time, third time. But how do you sort of like get back on the horse?
Yeah, exactly.
Look,
Giddy
I
up.
think
I love that.
Sally.
Tenterfield. It was
Giddy
great.
up, back on the horse.
Yes, come on.
Dad said I wasn't a good rider until I'd fallen off 10 times.
Yeah. Life lesson. I'm loving it.
It's in the
I'm
back of
loving
my
it.
head, Dad. I think it's really we live very long, hopefully long and healthy ages, and I think a lot of in the previous generations when marriage first started as a thing, people only lived till about 40, so you only really had one time for one, and now we're all living very very long periods, and
you gotta
maybe
put
time for more.
2 or 3 or 4.
I mean,
That's true.
ideally, you want to stay with the same person because you preserve your wealth.
Of course.
Yeah,
Well,
no, true.
number one.
Yes, exactly.
Number one.
Well said.
And
a
you
lot of
can-
people don't say that.
No, they never said that, but it's
Health,
true.
wealth.
That is
That's
true.
Health, wealth,
Yes,
etc.
yeah.
And I feel very admirable of people who stay together
Exactly.
and they love each other till the bitter end.
Exactly.
I think
So
that's
do I.
brilliant.
Yeah,
I
we're the
honour
same.
that.
As long as they're not
Absolutely.
connected, because sometimes
Yep.
you can stay together and not,
Sure.
Yeah.
But when you see it,
still,
it's
beautiful.
gold.
And I think
Yes.
most people go in with to get married with the intention of being.
Totally.
Yeah.
Or
But
partnership.
so then how do you start again? And we know that with some women, they go, look, to get my gear off is somebody new again. And, all that. I mean, these are real
for
stuff.
yourself, Nicola.
Like, come on.
Keep the light down.
Keep the light down.
How the dress
I
came
love
off.
lights down, lights off. I love it.
that.
But Sally, so what's how have you done
I
that?
love you,
like,
Sally.
if you just like automatically just...
I've had, great men in my life. I didn't have a lot of boyfriends as a young woman. I, got married very young.
Yes.
I was
How old
22.
were you? Okay, that's pretty
So
young.
I was a baby.
Yeah.
And my first husband, we were just out of uni and we wanted to travel and we thought, it's easier to get married. So we did that. And we didn't have any children. So if I was doing that today,
Be de
we would have
facto.
got married.
Yeah.
Or
Of
we would have
course.
just been
Yes.
boyfriend and girlfriend.
It's,
So
it was that
so,
era.
So there was that, yeah. Not to say it wasn't painful breaking up. Of course it was.
Yes.
My second husband was the man that I had my children with, who was a huge part of my life. He passed away, sadly.
I'm sorry about that.
But I'd already
losses.
Yeah, we'd already been divorced before that.
Yeah.
But
It's still the father of your children.
It's very
I
hard.
so get
tough on
it.
the kids.
Absolutely.
They miss their dear dad.
Yes.
Very much. And interestingly, the lovely man I'm married now, Peter, we dated at university. So my little tip, ladies, is get onto Facebook and I
Go on.
deleted
Go.
it.
No, hold on. Don't lose sight of it. Get onto Facebook.
Yeah.
Go on.
And if you're
Break that down for everyone listening. Yeah.
Hey, I've heard of this a few. This is happening a
Go on.
lot.
It's
Go
happening
on.
a little bit.
Reunions.
And we were both in that place. And we met at a social function and we realised we dated at university. I was 19. He was in his early 20s. But I think people can reconnect with that, sometimes with that first love.
Wowza.
Sometimes.
Loving this.
And that was for me very much because I was
That's
just
a beautiful love
just out of
story.
school when I started dating Pete and didn't see him for 36 years.
And how did you
then we-
reconnect again?
It
It wasn't
a reunion.
A social function. He lived
Okay.
in America for
Yeah.
many, many, many years.
Yeah.
And was back in Australia doing some work. And I was at a function for one of my charities. I sit on charitable boards as well. And we reconnected there and said,
Hey, uni buddies.
yeah. So that was lovely.
But Nick and I both say that's universal alignment.
It is.
Yeah.
Like you were both vibrate. You were meant to connect.
But I've heard that because we know with dating and we love all our dating stories. We've had many on the show, all the ones
You've
there.
got a way of getting it out of
Just love people.
We do. But it's interesting like that. But I have met other people too when they've actually hooked up at a school reunion.
Yeah.
You know, and
You
this is
never
all this
know.
is later. Or as they have sort of
If you
people
never go.
it comes up on Facebook.
Yes.
But that's gold. So
I
guys,
went to too
we
many
haven't discussed
women
that
only,
one on
like
our
female
dating
schools.
tips. That's one from Sally,
the
and
other thing,
that's a
yeah.
great thing that's sort of come
I
up.
love that.
So,
I love that. That was a great one.
You never know, that lovely man or woman.
And I guess he'd
But
been
you
married
knew.
before.
Yes.
yourself, and so you
history.
The time you see timing. Everything in life is timing.
And also, I think, are there tips too? Because sometimes, we're sort of saying, if you're dating someone else there, they've got their, tribe and their history and the stuff there, and you come in with your own, and everyone's got their own, I'm not saying baggage, they can have their own gifts with it. But there's, how do you find that of mixing all those sort of stuff together?
Well, Peter also grew up on a property in Western Queensland. So we almost had a doppelganger of a life. He went to school in Brisbane. I went to school in Brisbane. His mother, her best friend was my father's cousin, this kind of thing. So
You're right. That is
There was
just
something
meant to
lining.
be.
No, it was, without a doubt.
his sister's my stepsister's best friend, all of that.
Oh, wow. Did you get married
my
in the
late
country?
brother rode with his brother, all that.
Oh, Sally.
And the beat goes on.
The beat
I'm
goes
so
on.
happy for
Yeah,
you.
no, I'm
That's
happy
great
too.
news.
And
Kind of nice.
Quickly tell
Yeah.
me, because I'm a sticky beak,
Yeah.
about the wedding. Did you have a country wedding then?
No, we had a very small wedding, just all of our family.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
too.
Friends and
After a
family.
period of
Yeah,
time, you
yeah.
do
And
that.
we had
I get it.
I had adults.
Didn't wear the
Yeah.
big white fluffy dress.
No. See, the bloody 80s. Mine was so high. My hair was high. My dress was high.
that.
I was high. Everything was high.
And is there any sort of legacy you'd like to leave?
Look, I think you've managed to talk about the passions, you've brought that out. And I've loved talking to you guys about that. You've got a real way with you, particularly, my childhood and what formed me. But my passion, I think, and the one that I'd love to leave with people is, just take control of your own life and particularly your financial life. I think it's really hard if you haven't got that. If you haven't got that, it's hard to do other things. It's hard to give yourself freedom. I say to young women, it's hard to be a feminist and to go out there and forge your own track if you haven't got financial independence. So to me, that's everything. And I think once you've got that, and you can do anything. You can absolutely go out and do anything. You can change careers. You can take risks. You can
give
get
back
divorced,
what you're doing. You can
give
get that.
back,
You
all of
can
that.
do all that. Well,
Yeah.
that's beautiful.
I love that advice.
Yeah.
Just
and you're
quickly,
saying put your money where your mouth is. She's doing it all.
100%. You quickly mentioned about which we get involved in a lot of charity. What charitable organisations are you involved in?
There's been a lot over the
Yeah,
years.
but then
Mankind was one, which is the Pancreatic Cancer
that was
Foundation.
brilliant. Yeah,
which is fantastic.
Yeah, amazing.
Absolutely amazing. I've been involved with the Cerebral Palsy Research Foundation for many years, 20 years. A long time.
See,
they are doing
the scenes.
amazing.
Are they progressing in
I
ways
can't
too?
tell you how good this is, how good the story is. In Australia, thanks to the research and the money that we've put in backing medical research and scientists, we've been able to reduce the rate of cerebral palsy in babies by 40%.
What? Oh, bravo.
See,
bravo.
these are things that need to be honoured,
You know,
truly,
it's a
at the end of the
story.
day.
Absolute.
I didn't know that. And I think probably a lot of listeners didn't know that.
And
isn't
the
it good to
charity's
hear-
called...
The Cerebral Palsy Research
Okay, so
Foundation.
guys, listen to that. Like, you know, but,
Yeah.
like whether it's
Amazing.
money or time
And what about
with a
Lou's
charity, look at the end result.
Lou's Place.
Is it Lou's Place?
Yes, amazing.
Amazing refuge.
donated
Yeah, a lot of the girls, mothers from Scots
Yes.
actually were involved in that.
Very
Yes,
much so. They started it.
Yeah,
Oh, did they
yeah,
start it?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
They
Pammy,
Yes, Pam
amazing
Bartlett,
backbone
yeah.
behind it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the other one that I sit on
Yes.
now is the Garvin.
Garvin,
Medical
that's the one I was.
Research Foundation.
wow.
Now, can you
Which
tell
is
us a bit about
huge.
My
that?
mum used to give money to that.
Yeah,
always gave
It's
money
been
to that.
around forever.
It's been
yeah.
around for a long
Yeah.
time.
Yes.
It's an amazing medical research institute in Australia. We really, I think, again, punch above our weight. We look at specific areas like autoimmune disease, cancers. We look at genetic disease too, and we look at genes and how you can get bespoke medicine now, depending on, you can get genetic tests and get bespoke medicine.
Wonderful.
It's a joy every month to sit in those board meetings and just listen to what the researchers are doing and the breakthroughs that are coming out of this big grey building in Darlinghurst that we probably drive past every day.
Oh, that makes me so excited. I get so excited hearing that.
Sally, bravo.
Yeah, you're an amazing woman.
To all those things
truly
there.
are.
Thank you.
Well,
You're an amazing woman. I just want to ask a question. This is something, Nicola, you wrote down. What do you do to relax?
Yeah.
Exercise.
Keep us hit us.
She's looking fit and hot, isn't she?
I'm looking
Fill
at
us
these
in.
wonderful supplements.
Yes,
here.
vitamins. We take them.
And Kate, they have got
so much
great, guys.
energy.
You know what? 20% off. Get them.
Yeah,
Yes.
vitamins.
Well,
Yeah.
these
I
have all
can't-
come into my life because
I
I've
love it.
decided to
Yep.
embrace
show up.
strength, fitness, and good
Okay.
nutrition.
So hit me with gym. You do lift weights.
I do.
Yeah.
lift
What
weights.
else?
I do this wonderful thing called PhysioSize, which was
So you
started
do
by
that?
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah,
What's
I've got friends who
PhysioSize?
do that.
What is this?
Physiotherapists started this years ago, and you're in a fairly small class in a studio. You can do it online as well.
It's a bit like that.
Yeah, and
Oh,
physiotherapists are the ones that take the classes. So if you're in the wrong position, they'll come and sort of fix you. It's strength training, it's weight training, it's a little bit of cardio. It's just brilliant. I do that twice a week, and I work out with a personal trainer the other 3 days. So 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I do really intense exercise because
What's the gentle exercise that you do?
walking.
Oh,
Okay.
Listening to podcasts. Like
Okay.
Because I was just going to say,
tick.
is that sort of your tips on as we all age, and if we've got a long way to go? Would you say that's one of your many things there of to keep up the exercise, keep mind?
Number one.
There you go.
For your brain. For your
Any
body.
other tips?
Do you
of
clear your
Sally's
head
aging?
when you walk? Do you clear your head, Sally?
It does. Clear
All
your
right.
head.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does.
The others would. This is from
Yeah.
my own personal opinion.
Yeah.
The others for me don't because I'm.
Do you like a little drop of vino?
Yeah.
A little
Oh, yeah.
champagne? I think we had
Wait a minute, hold on.
a few bubbles.
She's a country girl. I reckon she'd knock back a beer.
They always say that
Sally, I'd go cheers
we
with a
live to
pint.
100. You listen to them, they go have a gin and tonic every night. Any other last minute Sally tips of on ageing, longevity, mindset?
Everything.
Take up something that scares you a bit. You talked about skiing. I love skiing. I've just taken up sailing, which is, again, scary.
Take up
Good
something
girl.
that scares
I love when you
you.
say that word
You
scary.
can do it. You can actually do it.
You always
but you've
challenge
gotta have
yourself, don't you?
Kathy
you
Letts said, do something every week that is outrageous. Now, outrageous can fall into
That's Kathy
a
all
new
that, isn't
sport.
it? I know.
It can be
Yeah.
something mad. And she said, particularly you get to a certain age.
Take yourself too
Don't be
seriously.
afraid.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Isn't it?
Don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
Just
Laugh
do
at
it.
yourself.
Just do it. If you're not going to hurt anyone, do it.
Exactly.
And laugh at yourself. And everyone else is going, oh my God, there she goes again. Who cares?
Yeah.
Well, because we're all I've reached the invisibility age very long time ago.
Is that the 6 zone? Is that the 6
that?
zone?
But Nicola and I can't really, so they will
love
notice.
We're all there.
Okay, we've got to ask our questions. You go first, Nicola.
Okay, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
Put more money into superannuation.
Well, there you go. Boom.
Understand investment.
Boom.
Wow.
Okay, you go, Dodie.
Well, I love that.
I know.
That's
It's simple,
really
it's sharp,
practical.
it's strong, and it's just wise.
It's just to the point.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's typical Sally, though. Okay, okie dokie dokie diddly
Diddly-doo.
diddly do. If you had the opportunity of meeting someone over the back
know
fence,
this.
who would that be and why?
I heard you talking about Liam Neeson the other day on a podcast, and I thought, yep.
Yeah.
Don't you love it? She's
We
a
are
chick.
there.
She's
We
a
are
chick.
there.
Yeah, yeah. There's something about
why?
him.
What's the, what do you like about him?
I don't know. I think he's a lovely actor, and I think he's tall and handsome and all of that. But I suppose more serious note, it's probably somebody that I would admire in business who's also been a great philanthropist. Somebody who's done a lot and given back. And I look at somebody like even someone like Melinda Gates, who's married to Bill Gates,
Yeah.
and what she does now is sort of run that foundation and try and actually, eliminate malaria in countries. And I think, wow, you've made more money than God,
Yes.
and yet you want to actually fix the world before you die.
Isn't that wonderful?
And I thought that would be pretty interesting to have.
So she's going to join you at the back fence too?
It'd be great.
Come on to that
what an
one.
interesting
I'd
combination.
like to hang out with Melinda.
Yeah. And Liam could be just...
I think, okay, I'll hang out with Liam and you hang out with Melinda.
No, Jodie. Look, he's doing a little thing there.
Okay, what's the last one?
Lucky last one, and I'm lucky to say this to Sally, who we
Yeah.
absolutely, I've got a crush on her.
Me-
now.
I
So,
told
see,
you.
I've got the girl crush.
There you
know,
go.
What makes you happy?
My children.
Oh, I love that.
And seeing them grow up into wonderful adults. I worked all their lives, and I had this thing, and I wrote a book about childcare and
Yes,
guilt and the whole
yes,
thing.
yeah.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm probably raising latchkey children, and they've turned into the most wonderful, independent, fabulous humans. And yeah.
Good, strong mum.
wow.
And
Oh.
dad, obviously.
Yeah.
But,
Isn't it
yeah,
gratitude
well
when you've
done.
got that? Well, Sally,
It's-
you've
it's very
blown us
fulfilling.
away. It's been so much. It's been great from
No.
sing-alongs to tears to love life
I
to
loved
super.
it.
I think
Yeah.
we've done so many things.
Yeah.
And
It's-
hopefully we're going to meet up at another event, another sort of
I hope so
financial
too.
event or a
I hope
travel
so.
event or something like
I hope
that,
so.
which would be really
Yeah,
good fun. But
yeah.
everyone, thank you for listening. Don't
Thank
forget
you,
to
yeah.
rate and review and also write into us, DM us any questions on anything, but especially with finance and money too.
If there's a question, we'll be
we'd-
more than
we'd
happy
really like
to
that.
include that in these 6-part series. coming
We're on
up.
YouTube now, so please
Yeah.
come across and
You
subscribe.
can't escape us, as I say.
Follow. Sam's going to do a video on how to do it, which is good because some
Yes.
people don't know how.
No, they
and I
don't.
was one of them,
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah,
so with
yeah.
that. So
It's
and
called the age
Don't
group.
forget to
40s.
to rate. Sally, if she's heard a couple of our potties, Donna
she
likes to give
has.
her own ratings, and so we had
Oh.
Sally from Tenterfield.
Did you have how
how
many
many
acres?
stars for Sally?
How many acres was at your sheep
Well,
farm?
the old acres,
Yeah.
yeah, 5,000.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, well, I would
many
say
stars
to
for
Sally,
Sally?
5,000 out of 5.
Thank you for
Yeah,
listening,
thanks,
everyone.
guys. Look
Tune
forward
in
to
next
being here
week.
next
Ciao, ciao.
week.
Bye. Bye.